Hi, welcome. Thank you for taking the time and for your courage
Thank
to come and speak with us and help us sensitize people as to some of the issues of families, what we call the innocent collateral damage of crime. And I'd like to start by asking you how your family became involved with the criminal justice system. What was a series of events that got you here?
Yeah, so we have three children. Our oldest is a son in his early 20s. He was about 23 years old. It's been about a year. And he's always struggled with some mental health issues. And, a lot of impulsivity, hyperactivity, not always able to soothe himself when he was younger, self-regulate, but a sweet, sweet young person. And as he got older, he actually became more and more reserved. He used to smile a lot when he was younger, but I think as he realized he was having his own difficulties and struggles, he just started to isolate more and, spend a lot of time on his own, not want to engage as much. And little did we know that he was really suffering. He was really suffering from mental health difficulties. And a series of events, some losses in the family, caused him to act out in a way that no one got hurt, but it caused a lot of aggravation towards the communities. And so he was arrested. And it's been, they say the wheels of justice move very slowly. It has been a difficult year plus, almost year and a half, trying to give our child what he needs while navigating through the court system that is really focused on punishment.
Yeah, so you would feel that the court system should be more focused on rehabilitation for his mental health issues. Is that what you feel?
Yes, and from what I've read, 40% of inmates in Cook County Jail have identified with mental health difficulties. Sometimes from what I've heard and what my child shared with us when he was released on electronic monitoring, that most of the people there were there for behaviors that inflicted maybe harm to themselves but were illegal, or acted in ways that when they were not at their best mental state.
Right.
Um, we, as his parents, were not going to just sit still, so we started looking and delving into and got him a really good psychiatrist. It was time for a change, and through a variety of medications, some hospitalizations and stuff, he is currently being treated medically in a good way, which just reinforces the fact that mental health and mental illness can interfere with one's behaviors, but it's a moment. And with the right treatment, one can get by. But again, the justice system seems to want to, they don't necessarily understand that, and that's a problem, I think.
Right. And they closed a lot of the mental health institutions in the 80s, and 78% of people with mental health issues encounter the criminal justice system, often for smaller things like repeated calling or yelling. And so you're part of a larger population. And I think you recognize that. What has it been like dealing with the criminal justice system and your son and your family throughout this process?
So I'll start off by saying that when our son was arrested, it was almost for him like a relief. And he was so innocent that he ended up confessing, without a lawyer, and they did read him his rights, but he didn't quite understand. He thought that maybe, oh, if I come clean now, and he said that, I'll get help. I want help. Well, that got him into a world of difficulty. And so, again, we are not wealthy at all, but we are blessed to be within a strong community, Jewish community, of people who are public defenders. And we called some of our friends and said, what do we need to do? And they're like, you have to hire a lawyer right away. And we are fortunate enough that we just did it. Whether or not we had the money or not, we just hired a private attorney. And we've been working with our attorney to try to get Jacob help. But in the meantime, more and more cases kept coming up. And each time Jacob had to be processed. This required my husband to retire early so that he could focus on our child and make sure that he was going to the many court appointments that he needed to go to. It required supervision because he was scared and nervous, and he still wasn't regulated well until we could get that help. It required a lot of heartbreak, and yet a lot of counseling on all of our ends, his siblings, but it required faith. And that's where I think Hinda came in for us, is that somebody recommended that we can't do this alone and you need to call this number. And I'm happy to share more about that. But if we were isolated, if we were alone, I think our family unit would have dissolved. And I'm not sure our child would continue to be home on electronic monitoring. He probably would be sitting in jail. And as I mentioned, it's been over a year and a half. He'd just be sitting what I call purgatory. No, not innocent, but not found guilty.
Yeah. And often the process takes a very long time. He was detained for a while. What were the conditions for him while he was detained?
The nice thing about my son is that he is quite resilient. So I was probably more afraid than he was. He was, because I had no idea. This was our first experience ever with anything. I mean, if I get a little red light ticket or whatever, I pay it right away. We are a family that never, gets into any conflict with the law. And this was a very new world for us. And he was taken down to California, which is, I guess, I've never even been down there before. And it did take a long time for us to process him. The mental health department there wanted to do an assessment on him because when you see him, he looks just like, in many ways, he's shorter stature and looks very young. And they thought maybe he was psychotic. So they had to do an evaluation, and the right hand doesn't talk to the left hand there. So it took a long time. He was in there for about 2 weeks, but
was he scared in the cell? Was he functioning?
He was not in a cell. He was in a room, he said, with about 50-ish other men, mainly with drug charges, alcohol charges, other types of disorderly conduct type of charges. Because he was on medication, he was in a special place for people who are on medication. His medication did change. They did not always give what he needed, but he got his glasses taken, those types of things. We had to learn how to work the system. How do you make a phone call? How do you receive a phone call? Can they get oatmeal, like commissary stuff? Can they? Oh, no idea. You try to call, they give you a phone number, nobody answers, or it's disconnected, or it was awful.
It's very hard to work the system.
Yeah.
Your parents especially are victims of the whole system. But I'd like to find out more. how you and your family were affected, the stresses and trauma personally within your family as a result of this process. Like, how
Sure.
has it affected your other children? How's it affected you? We see there's a
Absolutely.
financial effect, but also psychosocially, financial.
Well,
What?
financially it's been awful. We're using retirement money basically to fund his private attorney. But what I will say is that again, my husband it forced him to retire so that he could be there all the time. My one child was away at college, and she was very worried about her sibling, and the unknown. Same with my younger one. All of us, we had what's going to happen? Is he going to? Because we really didn't understand the system. Is he going to have to go to jail? Is he going to go to prison? Does he have to serve consecutive sentences if he is found guilty? Does it go to trial? Why is it when you go to court, they look at you for 2 minutes and then they say, see you in a month? And we're like, what's happening? No explanation, no nothing. And I remember, Abigail, you telling me this is the hardest part. I really, I, it is so true. This waiting, you're a number, they call you, and they say, we'll see you in a month. And even trying to connect with the attorney and trying to get a full understanding, it's impossible. And it added a lot. It really required a lot of patience and endurance and faith that we would get through this, but there were a lot of cracks, and there were times when I just wanted to run away and, I don't know, as a mother, just crawl under the table and say, call me back when it's all over. But you can't do that. You can't do that.
So can you describe a little bit more of the psychological stresses on you and the family as a result of this?
Yeah, I mean, physically, I think we all put on some weight. We have more pain. I have more, joint pain. I'm probably not eating as well as I did. I'm definitely not sleeping as well. A lot of our energy is spent talking about the what ifs, instead of talking about, or what ifs about our child versus what if we, can put away a few dollars and maybe buy a new car, but we really don't know. What it was more about the what ifs. What if he stays like this forever? What if he is unable to heal? What if he is deemed a terrible criminal? How is that going to affect the rest of his life? Is he going to be, I'll be honest, is he going to be a burden to me, to my husband, to his siblings, instead of being part of the family? Is he going to need significant support? And you can't help but feel like selfish about that. This is not what we imagined. We imagined that he was going to go off and get married or have a job and be able to at least take care of himself. Now, is he going to even be able to find housing if he is deemed a felon, for something, again, that was initiated by mental illness? Means no government job, no maybe housing, no support. I don't know what it means. It's so scary. It's so terrifying. I mean, the amount of tears I've shed. Again, he has always had a different track in this world, but what I do try to think about is when he was younger and he had a beautiful smile and a beautiful energy about him. And when he really would say hi to people and want to, get close to them and give hugs before all of this started to fade away, I was told focus on that because that's maybe still deep inside of him. And with the right help and support, maybe he can get back there to some level, some degree. Yeah.
Right. So it's hard to see the future, but I see you're a person with faith. You're trying to find that future and in an uncertain situation. And of course, it goes beyond the criminal justice system because we know that the repercussions persist post-sentencing. Maybe he'll be lucky and get into mental health court, but that's never a guarantee, right? So I think that's I think people are punished post and during and prior. So it's a long road.
And my child, as I mentioned, my child really wants help and he is open and ready for it. And I know that it's unfortunate that for a year and a half he's not been able to get that versus our, I'm hoping down the road things will change in that people who are with histories of mental health can receive at least treatment while they're going through the process, as opposed to just sitting and waiting. And that is what's the torture really is.
And I know that you and your husband are extraordinarily well integrated in the community. You are people who are loved in the community, and you're blessed by the community, and they're blessed with you. Have you found it hard as somebody in the community with this incident? Have you managed to sort of transverse those issues and prejudice?
It was terribly embarrassing when this first happened. I think that was even the worst part of it, was our reputation. We really did pride ourselves on our reputation to be honest and honorable people, and we were givers. We really never wanted to be to take, and it's very hard. And we didn't want anyone to know. That was beyond what we could control because the news media got involved in it, and at that point, that was just I really did. I did fade away for a while. I did what I needed to do, but I did not want to show my face in public or accept calls or accept visits. It was torture. At the same time, all of us really got into therapy. It was really important that we did. And slowly we connected with the first inner circle and then a little more and more, and realized anybody who knew our child knew that this is not criminal what he did. I mean, it is, but it's not wasn't. He did break laws, but it's not to the point that it needs to be the community is at harm in any way. And so they all continued to say how much they loved him and loved us. And then as we opened it up, people started sharing their own stories, and you don't realize that so many people like us were trying to hide and suppress something that actually more people than we ever imagined know of a loved one who has gotten in trouble with the law before. Most of the time it's been able to work out. Sometimes it didn't work out the way they had expected, but life goes on. And it required us to lean in more to our community and accept their love and compassion versus what our instinct was, which was to withdraw. But hearing people's stories, hearing people say to us, it's okay. Not that it validated anything, but it made us realize that, you know what, it is okay. Sometimes life has these bumps and we just have to get over them and hold on, tight. But, we're lucky that we are with people who shine brightly on us as opposed to add negative forces to us.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about what Hinda did for you. I just want to commend you on your courage first, because given your feelings in the community, it does take a lot of courage to come here and talk about it, sensitize people, and it really is in our community. If you think about it, 20% of people to 25 have mental health issues, 20% have addiction issues. It's in our community and it's hiding and it's in the closet. So your coming out here is an act of courage and an act of healing. And I just want to say that. Tell us, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to talk a little bit about what Hinda Institute did and what we do to support you in different ways. You are actually one of our most independent clients, but nevertheless, we came in. And tell us a little bit about Hinda's activities and how we made a difference.
What happened was one of my friends heard about the situation, called a friend who called a friend, and that friend said, give her this number and call Hinda. And I remember that call very, very well. And I remember speaking to you, Abigail, and you saying to me, I hear your pain. I hear this is very hard for you. And you acknowledged what I was feeling, but I didn't know how to use those words. And you said, we're here for you. Whatever you need. Do you need resources? Do you need, but we're here for you. And, your husband, Rabbi, started saying, I'd like to talk to your child on Fridays. And my child calls pretty religiously on Friday mornings without prompting. And he's not a religious person at all, but to hear the rabbi's voice and to get a little Torah. I don't even know if that registers with him, but what registers with him is that there is a person on the other line who really cares about him, who really sincerely cares. And because of that phone call with you, that first phone call, you got your team into the Cook County Jail to visit with him. None of us knew what was going on. Where was he? How was he? What was going? But you were able to go in, and you were able to also remind him that the Jewish community is there rooting for him. There are many forces in the prison system, we learned, that are really trying to connect with those who are vulnerable and give them some light. As Jews, I think we are very fortunate that we have light in our community, but sometimes it can be, when you're at your lowest point, you might feel susceptible and want to go elsewhere to find that. And Hinda always makes sure anyone who is Jewish has the Jewish light. And that's something that Hinda did from the start. And they continue calling us, checking in. What are you doing? How are you doing? What are you, how are you feeling? Initiating those conversations when my mother-in-law passed away, showing up without ever being asked, without ever saying, it would really help if you could give us a few dollars. Hinda just does it. They, of course, need those funds, and those funds go a long, long, way. I'm shocked by the amount of good that they do on such little budget, but they spent every penny and every dollar on helping those who really need it most, the forgotten ones. I was actually also shocked that the Jewish community, organized Jewish community, didn't have more of these types of programs, awareness. Hinda seems to be the only one that I'm aware of in Illinois that is doing the job of going in to help those who are struggling or have struggled in the past and are rehabilitating post court systems, we'll say. Back to us, though, it's never leaving us alone, never letting us forget that we're not always reminding us, always reminding us that we have people who care about us, who really do care about us doing well and being successful and having hope in the future. And I must say that that is the thing that has really kept us going as a family.
And let me ask you two more questions. I know that occasionally you join the support group, and I know we sent somebody into your home to work with your son. Have any of those things been productive for you, or?
Yes, I should not forget the person who has come in. As I mentioned, my husband did have to. Well, he chose to take early retirement, and when my child was very vulnerable, he could not leave him alone. We needed to keep eyes on him at all time, and so that was exhausting. And Hinda had somebody who, a wonderful, wonderful person who comes in once a week and plays games, engages, offers our child someone else to talk to than his parents, a wiser person in many ways. And they've developed a very nice relationship, in fact, to the point that my husband was able to go to a wedding in Israel, and we knew that this person would fill in some of the spots. He doesn't need as much supervision, but we were like, let's leverage that. So just who wants to be alone, right? So on house monitoring, where he can only leave twice a week for a few hours. And by the way, he's never broken that. Oh, in a year and a half, he's never broken any rules or regulations when it came to that. So this person comes in and connects with him, and really they have a nice time. And she's older, and yet a good role model.
Yeah, I know that she's dealt with mental health issues in her own family, and so has some deep understanding. Okay, I think I'm going to ask you one last question. And that's really, what would be your hope for the future?
Well, I have a few hopes. My personal selfish hope is that my child will get through this. And what I mean by that is get through it, whatever there will be a punishment, whatever that punishment is, he will go through it with his head high and just, do what he needs to do and move on. And my hope is that he will move on. He has a long life, hopefully, in front of him, that he will do well. And in fact, I've heard stories about that where young people, it's hard to imagine right now, but that these things don't have to, it doesn't have to ruin one's life. And that's my personal hope, and that we will heal as a family and have happy days ahead. My other hope is that once I can get through this, is to really work on helping others. I can't, as I said before, I'm not used to taking. I want to give. And I really want to be able to see if there's a way that we can work politically to make this better for those who are going through it, especially those with mental health, making sure they get resources before they fall apart, making sure that when they do start to get involved in behaviors that are not good, that the society understands that there's a way of showing compassion and not just punishment, and primarily within our community. What can we as a Jewish community do more to support those who are hiding, like kind of we were at the beginning, who were ashamed or afraid, making sure they realize that they're not alone. And that's something that we want to be able to hopefully give back one of these days.
Thank you. And really, one mistake doesn't define a life. I just want to encourage you. And my experience is people do go through this and they do come out the other end with joy, with success.
I have to say one last thing, and you know, the concept of tshuva, really, this whole idea, and I think that's what Hinda really stands for. And we as a community, we really, it's part of our essence. There's tshuva, salach lanu, you know, forgive us. We're always asking God for that. We don't have to wait till Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur for that. We're doing it at all time, and I think that's really the focus. And Hinda helped me remember that we always have this opportunity to return to God, to return to ourselves, return to the community. And again, I feel I'm lucky. I'm lucky that that's something that you guys stand by and live by.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're going to end here. Thank you once again for helping to sensitize our community, for helping us realize the things we're dealing with, and helping to advocate. It's critical because I think this is where domestic violence and other issues and maybe mental health was years ago, but we need to speak up and have courage to make those changes. So I really want to thank you for your time, your compassion, and your insight.
Thank you for not letting us, you know, flounder. Thank you for being there for us.
Thank you.